There's a level of discipline that people don't talk about. It's silent. It's unsettling. It's what separates the student from the weapon. This isn't about waking up early once. This isn't motivation. It is a quiet, cold, non-negotiable certainty. It is the reason why some people simply do not fail. They cannot. Look at the person who terrifies you, the one who has built a life so structured it seems impossible. He doesn't negotiate with himself. He doesn't need a pep talk. His actions are automatic. His commitment is irreversible. He operates on an ancient code that you ignore every single day. Your comfort is his poison. Your rest day is his opportunity. This person is not motivated. They are something much more dangerous. They have eliminated the choice to fail. Their identity is the discipline. It's built into the nervous system. You are about to learn the samurai system that creates this identity. The one rule that makes your life weak and their life unbreakable. This transformation is not comfortable. It will require you to burn the past version of yourself. This isn't for everyone. Most will close this video. If you stay, you will never see the world the same way again. Raphael knew what he needed to do. He always knew. The plan was perfect. The spreadsheet was detailed. The vision was crystal clear. Monday morning, the energy was high. He was focused. He crushed the workout. He finished the difficult task at work. He felt the rush of self-respect. This time is different, he thought. Tuesday, the resistance began to whisper. Just a little skip on the plan, a small compromise. He allowed the negotiation. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Wednesday, the promise was broken entirely. The momentum was gone. The energy was low. He felt the familiar weight of disappointment settle in his stomach. Thursday, he tried to restart, but the machine was already cold. The effort required was too great. Friday, he collapsed into the weekend, exhausted, defeated, and ashamed of the gap between who he wanted to be and who he actually was. He spent the weekend analyzing the failure. What was missing? Better advice. He bought a new notebook, a new routine, a new source of motivation. Next week, the cycle repeated. A powerful start, a rapid decay, a crash. He wasn't lazy, he wasn't unintelligent. He was trying harder than most people he knew. He was consuming all the content. He knew the steps. He tried to force himself. He relied on willpower. He relied on how he felt in the morning. He started to understand that his problem wasn't a lack of information. It wasn't even a lack of desire. The problem was that the effort of starting, stopping, and restarting was consuming all his fuel. He wasn't weak. He was fighting something he didn't understand. He was fighting the fundamental truth of how a system of discipline is actually built. The ancient systems understood this failure cycle. They knew willpower was unreliable. They knew motivation was a temporary drug. For centuries, samurai monks and elite warriors didn't talk about finding motivation. They talked about eliminating the option. They created systems of irreversible commitment. Think about the difference between a reversible and an irreversible action. A reversible commitment is putting your running shoes by the door. If you don't run, you just put them back in the closet. The cost is zero. An irreversible commitment is walking out to the courtyard, in front of the entire monastery, at the sound of the fourth bell, knowing that everyone is watching, and knowing that your failure to appear marks you as someone who is fundamentally unreliant no longer. The system is called Guji, or continuous practice without gaps. But it is much deeper than a simple schedule. It is a psychological weapon. The moment Raphael understood this, everything changed. He wasn't fighting a workout. He was fighting his identity. When you fail a workout, you are telling your nervous system, I am a person who breaks their promises to themselves. This is a reversible commitment. It is just a workout. But when you adopt the Guji identity, the question is no longer, should I do this today? The question becomes, am I the person I claim to be? The system demands that your commitment be public, or at least witnessed, either by an external audience or by a deeply established internal mirror. This is why ancient oaths were taken in front of peers. They were identity-level declarations. Raphael needed to build a structure where his personal integrity was on the line every single day. The cost of failure had to be higher than the cost of action. He declared his non-negotiable standards to his friends, to his partner, and most importantly, to a new self-image he was constructing. He named his target identity, an unbreakable person with frightening consistency. If he skipped the 5 a.m. deep work session, he wasn't skipping a task. He was publicly contradicting who he declared himself to be. He was dissolving his own identity. This is the secret. Discipline is not something you do. It is a truth about who you are. They don't decide if they will train today. They have already decided, centuries ago, the moment they stepped into the system. The training is merely the ritual that proves the truth of the identity. This shifts the conversation from energy management to identity enforcement. And identity enforcement is absolute. The system demanded an unbreakable commitment, but Raphael's biology still resisted. The decision was locked in, but the internal war raged every morning. The alarm screams at 5 a.m. The room is dark, the sheets are warm. This is where the old self makes its final stand. The voice is seductive. Just 10 more minutes. You deserve it. You worked hard yesterday. You're stressed. One day won't matter. This is not a negotiation about sleep. It is the ego fighting to preserve its comfort. It is the primitive brain trying to save energy. Every muscle fiber resists the cold floor. Raphael felt the physical weight of this mental friction. It felt like trying to start a heavy engine with cold oil. Every inch of movement was pain. He realized the negotiation itself was the real enemy. The time spent debating was time lost. It was energy wasted. The decision had to be automated and fixed. He designated a non-negotiable time block, 5 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. No phone, no email, only the most difficult, self-defining task. When the internal voice started, he did not argue with it. He simply moved. The cold mechanical motion was the counter-argument. He used a simple stoic phrase, "I am not this feeling." The feeling of resistance, the feeling of fatigue, the feeling of, "I don't want to." These were just temporary electrical signals. They were friction. They were not him. The system had to be bigger than the feeling. The Guji principle meant that the practice, even a minimal version of it, had to occur within the fixed time. One day, he was genuinely sick. He couldn't perform the difficult task. The old self screamed, "See, you can skip it." The new identity responded, "The commitment is to the time." For 90 minutes, he sat at his desk, perfectly still. He did nothing. He stared at the wall. He did not touch the phone. He honored the time block, even if the output was 0. He had partially won. He didn't accomplish the task, but he protected the system. The time block was the fortress, and it held. Raphael was always looking for the optimized, smarter way, the new biohack, the latest productivity routine. He had dozens of potential plans. Should he use the Pomodoro technique? Should he time box? Should he sprint? The Samari understood that variety is the killer of consistency. The enemy of discipline is not laziness, it is the illusion of choice. The illusion of choice creates decision fatigue. Every morning, the question, "What should I do today?" opens the door to negotiation. It wastes the precious fuel of the prefrontal cortex. The system of Guji demands the destruction of the illusion. There is only the one way. This must sound dogmatic. It must sound rigid. It must feel uncomfortable because it eliminates your self-soothing flexibility. Raphael set his one way. Every day, at 5 a.m., he sits at the writing desk and writes 750 words of his book before touching anything else. No coffee first. No checking the news. No warm-up exercise. The action itself must become the ritual. The rule is the process. This action might not always feel perfect. Sometimes the writing was terrible, sometimes he wanted to do something else entirely, but the rules stood. When others learned of this rigidity, they worried. "You need flexibility. You're being too hard on yourself." That sounds annoying. Raphael realized that the annoying is a feature, not a bug. If the system is comfortable, it can be easily abandoned. The rigidity of the system is the armor that protects the commitment. The moment he felt the urge to change the method, he used a simple internal decree. This is the rule. The rule is the identity. He wasn't trying to find the best way to write a book. He was trying to find the best way to become an unbreakable person with frightening consistency. The writing was merely the daily crucible. The system is not designed for output maximization. It is designed for identity enforcement. The discipline must be monotonous. It must be boring. It must be non-negotiable. It must be exactly the same every day until the nervous system stops asking for alternatives. Raphael stopped asking, "What should I do?" The answer already existed. It was etched into his calendar, his desk, and his self-image. The only variable he controlled was execution, not planning. This is the power of a fixed rule. It frees the mind from the labor of deciding and allows all energy to be spent on the labor of doing. The most destructive force in any discipline is the all-or-nothing mind. Raphael learned that most people believe consistency means performing at maximum capacity every day. The moment they fall short of maximum, they feel like they have failed completely, and they retreat. They stop the practice entirely. The Guji system, continuous practice without gaps, redefines failure. The blade must be sharpened, even if only with a single, quick stroke. The river must flow, even if reduced to a trickle during a drought. The fire must be stoked, even if it's just a pilot light. The moment it stops, it dies. Discipline is a current. Momentum is not stored energy, it is ongoing movement. If you stop, you don't just lose one day of progress, you lose the flow, and the cost to restart the momentum is astronomical. The concept is simple: never allow the gap. If Raphael could not write 750 words, he wrote 100. If he couldn't write 100, he wrote a single sentence. If he couldn't write a sentence, he sat at the desk for 5 minutes and stared at the empty page. He was protecting the ritual, not the output. He replaced the idea of rest with retreat. Rest is necessary. Rest is part of the system. Rest is built-in maintenance. But retreat is the opposite. Retreat is abandoning the field. It is the ego convincing you that you need to stop the commitment entirely. Rest is slowing the current. Retreat is building a dam. If you are sick, you rest, but you do not stop the practice. The rest becomes the practice. Lying still, recovering, focused on breath. This is a minimum viable commitment to the self. It prevents the gap. This quiet, continuous flow is what builds the frightening consistency that others fear. They see the rapid output and believe it comes from brute force effort. It doesn't. It comes from the continuous, uninterrupted movement of a small, unstoppable force. The world forgives one-time brilliance. It fears unbreakable routine. The biggest threat to consistency is the unexpected obstacle. The early morning flight, the sudden illness, the family crisis. In that moment of stress, your decision-making capacity collapses. This is neuroscience. It's called decision fatigue. When the system is overloaded, it defaults to the easiest path, stopping. The elite systems, like the monastery or the dedicated samurai clan, did not allow their practitioners to make decisions under stress. They used pre-solutions. A pre-solution is a simple if-then rule, designed and implemented during a moment of calm, rational clarity. The answer already exists before the question is asked. Raphael needed to build a rigid protocol for failure points. He sat down and mapped out his 10 most common disruptions, and for each, he installed an automatic response. When I have an early flight that makes the 5 a.m. writing impossible, Then I will complete a minimum of 20 minutes of writing on the plane before the landing gear retracts, using a physical notebook. When I feel the sudden urge to check social media before my deep work is done, then I will put my phone in a specific drawer in the kitchen and set a timer for 90 minutes. I will not retrieve it until the bell rings. When I am traveling and do not have access to my desk, then the minimum viable commitment shifts from writing 750 words to writing 50 words and performing 10 minutes of silent meditation. There is no discussion. The answer already exists. This is the principle of institutional discipline. The soldier does not debate the drill sergeant. He executes the pre-programmed movement. The pre-solution is a firewall against the old identity. It protects the commitment from the chaos of life. The monastery did not debate whether the bell should ring at dawn. The bell simply rings. The ritual is autonomous. By designing these if X happens, I do Y protocols, Raphael removed the need for willpower at the moment of maximum temptation or exhaustion. He understood that he was not strong enough to resist the primal urge for comfort when he was tired. Nobody is. Strength is the creation of a system that makes the easy path harder than the right path. The rule, I will never skip practice, is weak. The rule, if I cannot run, I will walk for 1 minute, is unbreakable. It's specific. It's automated. It eliminates the gap. This strategy ensures that the system always holds, even when the person temporarily falters. The identity of an unbreakable person is sustained by the structure, not by fleeting motivation. The relentless enforcement of the Guji system fundamentally altered Raphael. He stopped recognizing the person he was 6 months ago. The man who negotiated with the alarm clock, the man who let comfort dictate his life, was dead. This was a death and rebirth, a true transformation forged in continuous friction. The initial pain of discipline dissolved into the quiet power of habit. The internal war ceased because the identity was no longer in question. When he woke at 5 a.m., there was no debate, no decision. The action was automatic, cold and immediate. The neurological pathways for procrastination had atrophied from disuse. The path for consistency had become a superhighway in his brain. His consistency began to cause discomfort in others. They would ask, "Why are you still doing that? Can't you just relax?" This was the final signal of success. His discipline was so absolute that it revealed their own compromises. His commitment was a mirror, and they disliked what they saw. He became the person others feared, not because he was aggressive, but because he was so terrifyingly predictable in his excellence. His word was law because his action was guaranteed. He was an unbreakable person with frightening consistency. He doesn't do the discipline anymore. He is the discipline. You are not defined by the one brilliant day you had. You are defined by the unbroken chain of days that you kept your promise. This is the system. This is the code. It is now burned into your understanding. The only remaining question is, will you build the fortress of continuous practice, or will you continue to live in the swamp of negotiation and comfort? Declare your intention now, not to a friend, not to a screen, but to the future self you must become. Step into the cold certainty. Close the gap. Never stop. There is no finish line. There is only the next step.